Hello, my name is Geoff Clark, and this is my swing calculator program for CSCI325. This application was made in Apache NetBeans IDE 12.0. First, I'm going to demo my working application. I'm going to include a on-screen keyboard during the demo to show the character validation. Note the custom title, swing calculator by me. There is the sample instructions that are outlined in the assignment that I put at the top. This calculator is designed to calculate the mean, which is the average of numbers, the median, which is the middle number of a group, and the mode, which is the number that appears the most in a group. In this application, I've also added a clear button that will clear the data input and any calculations that are displayed, and there's also a close button that will exit the application. As stated, there are some validation checks inside the input box. Only number spaces, commas, and backspaces are allowed whenever the user is inputting data. If any other key is used, it's not allowed in the data box, as I will demonstrate now. Note the keyboard at the bottom. As I'm going through, I'm typing in letters, and only the comma went through. But as I type in numbers, they do validate. Spaces validate. Backspace. Do not insert anything. I'll explain how that was done in the coding later. I do want to note that spaces were only allowed due to it being part of the criteria. I would have admitted the ability to add spaces in a production release. I've also added some extra checks to avoid errors in calculations, or if there were two or more commas, such as if a comma was entered without a number. These would create null values in the array, which would throw out errors. I also added some checks for comma validation that I'll demonstrate now. If you have a comma by itself, and you click any of the buttons, you'll get this error message. Note that the clear button did clear out everything. If you have a number, and let's say we put 3 commas in and 5, you'll get an error message that tells you to check the amount of commas that are in the input box. I've also added a check that if there is nothing put into the data input, you'll get an error message telling you to input numbers. If you have a comma at the beginning, 2 commas sequentially, or a comma at the end, I have a check that will omit those particular scenarios and allow the calculation to continue. This is only allowed because one of the test cases in the assignment has an extra comma and the calculation needs to go through, but had this been a production release, I would have bundled those checks into the previous comma validation. So now I'll go through the examples as specified in the assignment, demonstrating the calculation of the mean, median, and mode, first at the same time and then individually. For test case 1, we're going to input the numbers 10, 20, 30, an extra space, and 40. And we're going to do calculate mean, median, and mode. As you see, the answer popped up, and it did calculate all 3 correctly. Note that because it was an even, the calculation did pull the middle 2 numbers and got the average of those 2, which was 25. Test case number 2, 10, 20, and 30. We're going to do the calculation of the 3 m's. As you can see, since it was an even number of values, that the median picked the middle number. I'm going to use the clear button again. Test case number 3, 10, 20, 30, 50, 20, and an extra comma at the end. This time we're only calculating the mean, which was 26. And clear. Next case, number 4, 10, 20, 30, 20, 50, 60. Calculating the median, which was 25. Test case number 5, 10, 20, 30, 20, 50, 60. Calculating the mode, 20. And clear. And I will demonstrate the close button. Note that it did exit the application. Now we're going to look at the design side of the application. Going to note that it did use a custom title here. Note the different fields, the J label, the J button, the J text fields. As you can see, they're all listed here. And here's the design up here. As specified in the assignment, we're going to scroll through the code. As you can see, the generated variables. Here's our first button, the mean button. Here are some of the validation checks that I mentioned earlier about the commas. I used substream to replace if a comma was started or ended. If they were 2 consecutives, I used replace all. Note at the top, if there's a space, it replaces with blanks. There are no values, just all blanks. Then you'll get this error message. I have an additional check that if there are still commas after the replacements in substring, if there are any commas left, it'll kick back an error. Note the split, and this is how the array is built. Here's the loop to go through each part of the array, and here is the calculation of the mean, and here's the display. Here's the close button. It's very simple, system.exit. And here is the validation of the input box. I used a simple if statement. So basically, the if statement is going to check to see if the character is typed in, if it is a digit, if it's a backspace, a comma, a space, or the delete key. It'll allow it. Otherwise, it performs a consume, which prevents the input from going into the box. Next is the median button. Same validation checks for the commas. We have the same split, building of the array, and then the median logic. Note the sort. This will sort the array. And then this right here, we'll see the length of the array is even. It'll go ahead and pull the middle 2 numbers and get the average of those, which will turn out to be the median. Otherwise, if it's odd, then it'll just grab the middle number and display. Here's the mode button. It will use the comma validation, see if there's actually a number in there, and then proceed on. Here's the split and build of the array. Here's a loop. And then there is an additional loop to find if there's a number repeated. And then that I have the logic here, and then that'll find the mode of the number that's most common. And here's what I call the 3M as all 3 functions in one button. And basically I spliced all the logic together and so that it would all display at once at the bottom. And here is the clear button. Very simple, clearing out the text box and the 2 answer fields. And as we go to the bottom, you'll see all the swing variables. So that concludes my application for the swing calculator for this assignment. Thank you.